welcome to episode 4. Can you believe it? We are 4 episodes in. Doesn't time fly? My name's Will.
I'm Danny.
And welcome to Crippled with Anxiety. Thank you for coming back and thank you for joining us if this is your first time. So, after last week's deep dive, when I did a lot of talking, we thought we'd make today's episode a little more 50-50, hopefully, and have one of our first episodes on a specific topic. And this is quite a niche area, admittedly, but Danny, what have you just done?
I have just sold and bought a new house with my partner. So, big life change.
Yeah, and I've been through it a couple of times. So we thought, let's talk about it. How do we approach it? From our physical disability side, from our mental health side, because after all, as they say, moving house is one of the most stressful things that you can ever do. And they weren't lying. It's awful. I'm glad I'm in my house. I'm glad they're going to carry me out of it in a coffin because I am not leaving again. It's done for me. Have fun, Danny.
We put our offer in and got a little notification through that said, "Oh, the hard part is over. Now it's time for the fun part." I was like, "Now is the chain and the exchanging of contracts and this date doesn't work for us, and oh, this has actually gone wrong and this has fallen through." And you can tell how my brain works as I'm going through all these things that I've thought, what can go wrong in this process?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's difficult.
It is. And it's going to get worse for you. So
thank you.
All right. Let's start at the beginning. How stressful is it, or anxiety-inducing? Is that the right term? Is it when you even start raising the idea of moving house? Because I would imagine, you have your comfort there. It's your surroundings, it's your space. You've done what you need to do. You've created your own space there, and now suddenly you're thinking, I'm going to give all this up and go somewhere where I've never been before.
Yeah, I think because I'm coming at this perspective of I've got anxiety disorders, whereas Jess, my partner, has anxiety, but she doesn't have, there's no disordered version about it. It's just, I always say people should have anxiety because it's part of being human and our nervous system and understanding external triggers. We should feel nervous before job interviews or big life changes. It's just that mine can develop a bit further. So I think we both face the normal anxieties of this is going to be stressful. We're also work is there, and as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I'm still getting headaches that I don't know where they're coming from. So there's that thing of we're moving house while I'm still going through all this stressful, not knowing what's going on there. So we had that, but I think for me, it's more, as you've just touched on, we've built a home together, Jess bought, and I've then moved into it a couple of years into that process. We've been here about 3 years, but for me, a lot of things it's not just comfort, it's what I've created as a safe space. So I know where everything is, and I know that I've managed to get over compulsions for OCD, but I know where the hob is and if that's off, and I know where the door is, and we've only got one door at this property. So I know that I don't need to check a back door in case someone breaks in and kills us all, catastrophizing here. We've got a little workspace that's set up that I'm used to, and when I'm at work, that's my space, and I know where everything is in the house. And that when you're moving somewhere else, it's like, okay, well, we can picture ourselves in this house, but it's full of everyone else's furniture, and it's their space. And I know that moving in for the first few weeks, months, I'm going to be like, oh God, this is a bit overwhelming. And now we're in a small cottage, one up, one down. This is moving into one with 3 bedrooms and an outdoor space. And I'm like, oh, this is a lot. And I feel like it's almost like a kettle that's just simmering and then it's getting ready to boil. And I'm like, oh, let's try and get it off before it explodes out the spout. So yeah, for me, it's been quite difficult just because you're leaving something that you've created that is a safe space to be in. So yeah, I suppose when you've moved house in the past, have you moved before you were in your chair and been through that process? So how was
Yes.
that? How was that for you? Because obviously the second time round was a lot more stressful because it was my life has changed. Going back to the first move or first couple of moves, how did the anxiety or stress of that affect you?
Wasn't too bad, I'll be honest. I mean, the first place, I mean, me and Fiona, we'd rented a few places beforehand together, and that was nice because that's your we're moving in together, type thing, and it's all really nice and lovely. And then the first time we were buying a house together, was a new build, and it was like we're going to be the first people in there. We can put sockets where we want, we can have these doors, we can choose this kitchen, so again it was very much immediately our space. It wasn't we were having to undo other people's things. So yeah, it was like, yeah, we're getting a house together, we're proper adults, and it was just really exciting. I don't remember being stressed particularly about anything. It was just all really enjoyable. I
I
say
suppose
because
with the new build, there's no chain, I guess.
no,
So you
that's what I was
can
about to
it's
say.
yours.
Yeah, it's mine. We were moving out of a rented place. We could have another month if we wanted. Whatever. There was no exchange dates we had to worry about getting out. And is it? We're gonna have to live in a hotel for 2 weeks or whatever. It was just no. It was really easy. And I say we made it simple by buying a new build. But I didn't have any stress whatsoever. Everything was okay. I could get in, because even though I wasn't in the chair, I still had walking issues and things. But I had a driveway. I could park right next to the front door, and the stairs were easy for me to get up and down. And it was just, yeah, like perfect.
I
Everything
mean,
brilliant.
parking's usually that's something that's just triggered a spot. We've been looking at a lot of houses, and on our street at the minute, we have two cars, but only one parking space. So we've got to park on the street, round the corner. And for me, that's had sort of those compulsions that are like making sure the handbrake and the windows are up and stuff. Like leaving the car around the corner I was spending a lot of time, like when I was compulsing quite hard before I went through that exposure therapy. I even had a song. It was like it wasn't a song. I've said it's a song. It's not catchy. No one's going to be singing this long. But I was like, handbrake, window, window, door, door, handbrake, window, window, and it's like it was
It's
just for me.
amazing.
It was just
Oh
the
God,
repetition.
I want someone to put a beat behind that. I mean,
Yeah, if someone wants to send a remix in,
yeah, if this doesn't become the new what was that University Challenge one? I mean, it's I can't accept drum and bass. We need jungle. That's what I hope that someone does with that. Oh, it's amazing. I'm gonna have that in my head now for the rest of the day.
but I'm
Really good.
trying not to think that I need to do it next time I get in the car because I'm past that part of my life. But yeah, the parking thing is huge. We've moved into somewhere that's got a driveway for two cars because for me, coming home late at night or after being abroad or at any point of the day, you come back and go, God, I hope someone's not in my spot. Having a drive is huge for me because I'm like, I don't want to have that conversation with them. I like the safe spot of this is where my car's going to be and I know it's going to be there and I can see it and I feel secure when I come home. There's these things that some people might not be bothered about, but for me with that extra anxiety, it's like before I turn about 3 streets away, I start to go, if someone's in my spot, I don't know how I'm going to cope with it. It sounds so ridiculous saying it now, but it's your space. It's like your house. It's an extension of that safe space. So yeah, I think you're right with the drive. And for those that aren't fortunate enough to be in a position with the house market as it is to be buying right now, or those that haven't looked, the chain situation, because I used to see this and be like, no chain. And I was like, oh, cool. I don't know what that means. Effectively, you're linked with other people. So if someone's buying your house, but they've got a house to sell, and you're buying someone else's house who's trying to buy another house, all of those things have got to fall in place at the right time, or that's not going to work for anyone. Because if one house falls through, then that falls through, then they can't get the mortgage for that one. So, yeah, that's where some stress comes in. We're lucky in the fact that we put the house up for sale last Wednesday, had 4 viewings on the Friday. It was the Easter weekend. Reopened on the Tuesday morning, and we had an offer, a second viewing another viewing booked in, and then after that separate visit on the Wednesday night, we had another offer that we accepted. First time buyer who wants to move straight in, which is great from that perspective. But we are waiting for the other people who we have an accepted offer to move into theirs that they've got an offer on. So the chain, Fleetwood Mac have got a catchy song. So have I, apparently, with the window, door. But the chain in house moving is not the same as waiting for Formula One to start and hearing that catchy tune. It's a nightmare.
So, mentioned about the anxiety you have about leaving your space. Do you get any added anxiety about people coming into your personal space? When they're coming to look around, or is it just that you kind of accept it as a necessary evil?
I think a lot of my stuff, because I get the anxiety and the generalized stuff where I'll worry about a lot of things, but I think it's more the OCD side. It feeds on what ifs. So it's more before someone's in. I'm pretty good, surprisingly, in a crisis. So talking about my car, if the handbrake wasn't off and it rolled away and hit a wall or a person, I'd be the first out there trying to fix that situation, save everyone, ring all the right authorities, do what I needed to do. It's the fear of it happening that eats away at me and how I can prevent that. So I think with people coming into your space, it's like, especially strangers that are coming to maybe buy your house, I'm looking at it and going, what if they don't like it? What if they're rude to me in my house? What do I do? What if they break something? What if they steal something? Like all these other things that they're probably thinking, what if they're not nice? What if I don't like the neighbors? Everyone's doing that what if, but for me, it's as soon as they're through the door, it's fine. It's a situation that I'm just dealing with. It's the fear of what could happen before, I guess, which is how my obsessions kind of manifest. And that I think we've discussed, if we ever do merch on this, it's going to be a mug that says "What if" on it, because it's the question I've asked the most in my life. One thing that comes up actually that we'll swing it back to you is when I sent you pictures this morning, because we put in the offer this morning, and it was accepted, and I sent it to you and said, I think I bought a house, Will. And I was excited to show you some of the features because there's an outdoor space that I will use for watching sport in it. What I didn't notice at the time, and what you quickly said we'd need to rectify if you were to come round, is the steps up from the driveway to the house. There's then steps into that extra sports room, which when I'm walking around and buying that, I take for granted. Even though you don't want to move to visit me or to do anything in my space, it wouldn't be accessible for you. And I just didn't click. So I know the situation of yours was when you just bought and then you're in hospital. What was the situation for you moving out? Did you have to find someone that was ready made for you, or did you have to find someone that was good enough and then fix things?
Yeah. So we tried. I say we. It wasn't me at all. I was in hospital. It was Fiona and my parents. They went and looked around a few places because immediately our house wasn't going to be accessible. There was steps up to the front door. There was not really anything that could be done about that. What the doctors or the nurses and the OTs floated the idea of putting a hospital bed in our living room, and basically me living in the living room. And we were like, no, that's not an option. That's just not happening. So as opposed to living in my living room, I lived in my mum and dad's dining room for 6 months. So I moved out of the hospital and went to my childhood home essentially, which is they've moved since, but it was a 3-story terraced house, which had a decent sized downstairs, but obviously that was as much as I ever could access. So that was just a case of getting me out of the hospital. We tried to find somewhere, but there was just nowhere in our budget because, of course, we just bought a house. We'd only been in this house for 6 months, so we still had a massive mortgage on that. The housing market hadn't really moved anyway. No, housing market to that point in time still hadn't really done anything. So it wasn't like we had equity or whatever. So we just had to go to my mum and dad. So Fiona stayed in my room on the top floor, and I stayed in the dining room. but at least that gave us some time to, get to grips with what was going on, the big changes and everything. And then we started realizing that, look, we can't stay here much longer. As I said, Fiona was on the top floor. I was in the dining room on a hospital bed. And we need to find someone. So we started the process then of looking. And of course, it was just the two of us. We didn't need much. So, we started looking at flats, really, ground floor flats, because 9 times out of 10, they're accessible. We saw a lot of them, and eventually we found one we liked. And honestly, that process wasn't too bad, really, because we'd already basically set our stall out. It's a ground floor flat. We're not going to be. We were very fortunate that we weren't going to be in a chain. Because we don't export that house, we were going to lose a ton on it if we sold it. So we kept that, and with some help from parents and things like that, we were able to find a flat that we could buy reasonably easy. So that wasn't too bad, I must be said. You've got to get to grips, but I've been in there already. I've wheeled round it. I've made sure I can turn around in the hallways, etc.
What were the appliances like in that, though? Because you say ground floor flats are accessible, but it's not always necessarily because it's made for someone with accessible or access needs. Did you find that in some you looked at, because I imagine some will still be set for people that are going to be stood in the kitchen, so reaching for things. How did you find that? Was that accessible as well?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. So the high cupboards, no, couldn't do that. Work counters, not comfortably being able to reach them. But that was stuff we could work around. I seem to remember that the big one was the bathroom. So the flat had an ensuite off the main bedroom, but that had a shower stall in, that you stepped into. But at least we were like, right, this can be turned into a wet room. It's a small little space, relatively simple to do. So first few months, I was still able to use the other bathroom. So it wasn't too bad, really. And I said, that house move or flat move was far easier, less stressful than I'll move out of that flat into where I am now. That was
I've got to say, for those listening along, at the start of this, Will told us how difficult moving house would be and put the frighteners up me, and he's just said that everything's great. So I'm hoping that there's going to be a horror story from the next one, only because I know you're settled and you've just had new windows and it matches your door. But I want you to have gone through something to justify scaring me so much 17 minutes ago. So the floor is yours.
The two I've done previously, pretty flawless, really, pretty easy going. The next one, so by this point, we had our eldest was born, and he was growing up, and Fiona was pregnant with our second, and we were to the 2-bedroom ground floor flat, and it wasn't going to last. We needed space quickly, type thing. So then the search started, and that was tough. That was really hard. We must have spent about 6 months, I want to say, if not more, trying to find a house. Because look, with the exception of probably a bungalow, you're never going to find a house that's accessible right off the bat. That just doesn't happen. And bungalows were prohibitively expensive. We wanted a 3-bed house. Well, a 3-bed bungalow was probably almost an extra 100 grand, on top of our budget. So that was just not doable. So we had to go for a house. And looking around houses, my God, I mean, obviously the vast majority of houses have steps going into them. First off, there's very few houses that don't have a front door step. Now, one step is fine, but what you often find as well is houses have UPVC doors, and they've got big lips on the bottom of them, and getting in and out of those is really tough. And of course, people have hall tables if they've got a hallway. Can you navigate past those? And they've got coffee tables in the middle of the living room, and and all that. And I can't go upstairs, so Fiona has to go up. And
because you won't necessarily have those when you move in, but when you're looking round, they're in the way.
Yes,
for you.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's hard for you to picture yourself in that home if you can't actually get around it.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. And like we were talking about the driveway, we went to a couple, and the driveway was kind of felt like it was almost a 90-degree. It was just so steep. It's like I couldn't get my chair on this. You know, I couldn't even push up the driveway. I'd literally be a prisoner in the house because I couldn't get up the drive. I remember once it was must have been in the autumn or something, and it was been raining and stuff, and my wheels are muddy, and the estate agent's like, "Can you take your shoes off?" I'm like, "Well, I can take my shoes off, but not much point, is there really?" And and these people have this lovely cream carpet in their hallway, and it's like, I've got these muddy wheels, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Ollie," she said, "you're gonna have to stay in the hall on this mat, and your wife's gonna have to come and look around the house." And he was like, "Well, okay, we're taking this one off immediately."
Yeah.
I mean, it's not their fault. They've got nice clean carpets. Of course, they don't want muddy wheels going all over it. But you had stuff like that, and you'd have ones where there was quite common near the area where we now live, where houses you go up the stairs, and then at the top of the stairs it would split and go right and left, and there'd be a little step between them. And it's like, well, that's no good either. We saw this really nice one. We thought, oh, this is lovely. We're looking downstairs, and the kitchen was spacious, a nice living room. And then Fiona goes upstairs and goes, "Nope, go a step left and right." Like, oh, okay, that's that done. And the estate was like, "You sure you don't want to look any further?" It's like, no, there's no point. So yeah, there was lots of those. There was lots of ones that looked amazing, and you're studying the photos, trying to figure out what's wrong with this one. Is it worth going to look at? And you think, no, it all looks good, and then you get there, and there is something that's just not visible on the photo. They don't talk about ones where the door frames are too narrow. I mean, nowadays there's minimum door widths, but houses from the 60s and 70s don't always have minimum door widths. So half the time I couldn't get out of the hallway. I'd be stuck in the living room or something. So there's lots of little things like that where houses quickly became evident they just weren't going to be suitable. And so I say we looked through a lot of houses, and we were honestly starting to get really sort of depressed that there was just nothing out there. We were never going to find, especially not within our budget. And then we found a house, and it was nice. It was really nice, I should say. Yeah, it had a little step. That's fine. We can work with that. Not a problem. Bit of spacious downstairs, nice sized kitchen, all that. Fiona told me the upstairs was really nice. We thought, yeah, excellent. We put in an offer. We were a bit cheeky. We went under because that's what you should always do to start with. And the bloke accepted. I remember the bloke accepted it really quickly. Like, oh my God, we're moving. And then about a week later, or it might have only been a couple of days later, I think my dad sent me another listing. I'm like, "Dad, we found one." He said, no, look at this one. I said, yeah, but I'm not going to look. I said, it's over budget. Have you seen how much this is over our budget? We can't do this one. And we've just had an offer accepted. He goes, no, have a look at this one. So I had a look, and there was this lady selling a house not too far, literally 2 streets up from where we just had an offer accepted. And she'd had a son in a wheelchair, and it had a wet room. It had a ramp going up to the front door. It had everything obviously was set out downstairs so that wheelchairs could fit through it. And we're like, oh my God, this is ideal. And we talked about it. It was like, we just had an offer accepted, and like, this is over our budget. And we sat down. We thought, yeah, but we're gonna have to spend money on doing this to it or that.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. The money you'll spend is it's done.
Exactly. Yeah, it's done. We're like, yeah, let's go have a look at least. And the lady was lovely. She goes, she's like, I want you to have this house. Now I know they always say that because they want to sell, but you felt that she was like, yeah, I know what this house can mean to you. And we had, and we put an offer in, and it was accepted. And we were like, this is amazing. This house actually exists that fits me, suits me straight away, and now we just need someone to come and buy our flat. And we did. Someone came around. Oh my God, this is amazing. And we were moving down the chain process. And so I have a lift in the house to get me between floors. I will put some photos and videos on my Insta later, but and so we had the lift people come round to this house. They measured up. They're like, this is where we can put it. You know, and obviously the house owner lady was dealing with all this because it was her house at this point still. And we're like, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is going so easy. And then our buyers pulled out of our flat. And we were like, oh God. Okay, let's not panic. We had plenty of people around it first time. Sure, we'll get some others. We did, and loads came through, but none of them were offering anywhere near what we wanted and what the estate agent said we should be asking for it. And the lady we were buying this amazing house from was like, I really need to sell this house. I need to, you know, she was downsizing and moving, and, you know, she had a chain date and things. And she was like, she said, I can give you like 2 more weeks. Like, oh my God. And so, yeah, we're like accepting like all viewings and stuff like that. It's like, we have to still be calm about this. We can't just accept massively under our asking price just because. We still need to be rational. We had loads more viewings. Nothing came. And that lady, I remember speaking to that lady. I'm like, and she's, I'm so sorry. I've got to put the house back on the market. And she did. And that was gutting. That was horrible. I was like, we're back to square one. We had the perfect house. We're back to square, you know, even, I mean, the first bloke who we had the offer, well, he was probably laughing, you know, because he was trying to do us a favor and we'd screwed him over. And now we had this perfect house and it wasn't ours anymore. I was like, well, there's only going to be one of those, you know, and it was just horrible. And it was like, you know, I think, I don't remember if, you know, Fiona had, you know, we got our second child now, and it's like we're in this tiny little flat, and yeah, it was absolutely horrible, you know. So, you know, yeah, we'd had first 2 moves had been amazing, and then this one had just been an absolute heartbreaker, and we had to start all over again. We'd lost this perfect house, and so yeah, we started again.
How long was the starting again process until you found?
So we probably spent, I'd say, another couple of months. Again, it was really soul destroying finding. And then we found the one where we are at now. And, you know, I came to it again pretty unconvinced. It had steps, you know, it was a bit tight getting around downstairs.
Everything compares to the perfect one you found, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Everything compared to that one. But it doesn't have this. It doesn't have a wet room, you know. We're going to have to move that. We're going to have to make ramps. We're going to have to do this and that. But, you know, Fiona thing, we're never going to find another one of those, or at least not in a reasonable time frame. You know, we need to be thinking. I thought, well, you know, it's all right. It's got potential. So, you know, we put an offer in, and then they told us they had 3 more offers in, and then we had to put a blind bid in. Now, oh my God, that's stressful, because it's like, this is the you know, you convince yourself by this point, this is now our perfect house. And it's like, we're going to lose this again. We're going to lose, you know, I don't know what to do on this. I think we put in the asking price, you know, as our first offer. And it's like, well, what's the asking price? Are you telling me these other people have put in more? And you know, blind bid. So I just have to guess. So it's like, so you start questioning, like, well, am I going to lose my house like for £500? No, okay, we'll increase our fee. You know, well, what about another 500? Are we going to lose our dream house for £1,000? No, okay, let's make it 1,000. And you start second guessing, and you know, how much do I really pay over for this?
It's the thing you do if you buy anything off eBay or any auction, and you're like, right, I'll set my max bid so that it'll go up right until the end. And if someone bids above that, then that was my max bid. But then you realize that a minute's left and someone's bid above your max bid, and you're still looking at it and you're like, I could do another £5. And then you just, at what point do you stop? And especially when you're talking houses, it's not thousands of pounds, it's hundreds of thousands of pounds that you're borrowing or putting in. It's a big impulsive thing.
Yeah. It's nuts. And it's like, so we kind of just, you know, we sat down, we did some maths, and we were like, you know, we're not going to go to our absolute maximum because that would just burn us out. But, you know, okay, so we increased our bid and we got it. I mean, it must be said, still to this day, I'm convinced that was just a move by the estate agent to get more money in, because I'm pretty certain from what people I've spoken to since, from Dubai bid, everybody goes over, if they can. So I felt a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, it must be said, slightly about that. But it is what it is. So we got it, and we moved in, and so of course we moved in. It's a 3-bedroom house, like 4-bedroom, because the people only stuck an extension on. But as far as I was concerned, I had a living room, a dining room, and a kitchen, and a conservatory downstairs. That was it. That was my entire house. I had never seen other than photos, and I'd never been up there physically, upstairs. And
in a house that you own and have put so much money into, and it's until you, and I know what's in your house now, so I know where this is going, but to not have the upstairs, it can never feel like a home until it's just a house at that point, and you're a visitor in your own house.
It really did. And to make matters worse, while there is a downstairs toilet, it is literally a cubicle type design. I cannot get into it, so I had no toilet. I didn't have a bed. I mean, we got a sofa bed in the end, so I could sleep on that. But I had no proper bed. I had no toilet. Yet I owned this house that I couldn't really do anything with. I couldn't get in or out on my own because, like I mentioned earlier, massive UPVC lip on the front door. So I bought this house, and they were like, "I'm stuck. I'm an absolute prisoner in this house." And I think it took about, I want to say about 2 months, 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that, to get the people in to do the lift, because obviously we've been talking to them the whole time, and they'd come in and done the survey and everything like that, but still booking them in and everything like that. So it was about 2 months later before I was actually able to physically get upstairs. And of course, couldn't use the bathroom either. As I said, I didn't have a bathroom downstairs, so I was on a commode in the conservatory. Luckily there was a curtain I could pull across the door for the conservatory, and I couldn't really bathe. I couldn't access a shower or a bath or anything like that. So I was sort of wet wipes and buckets of water, and it was for 2 months or whatever. It was horrible. I mean, it was probably, I'd have probably got bad condition in prison. I'd have been able to use bathrooms and showers and things. So it was awful. And even then, when I could get upstairs, finally, there was a bathroom up here, but again, it wasn't really set out. I couldn't get through the door. They had this folding door on, and I couldn't get through it to begin with. And then there was a big curved bath, and once I was through that door, which we'd taken off, I couldn't make the turn round to squeeze between the big curved bath and on the side wall. So, it was, and I still couldn't, really wash or anything, because again, there was a shower cubicle which I couldn't get into. So you have to sort of get people round to do wet room quotes, and that takes time and money. And I think it must have been a couple of months after that we finally got wet room sorted, where that I didn't actually have to use a commode anymore. I mean, so for the first 4 or 5 months in the house, I used a commode, not very dignified at all, but that was just life. If we wanted to get a house, there was going to be short-term pain. There was no two ways about it. We couldn't do anything about it. I guess it's one of those things you just have to live with. As a wheelchair user, there's going to be times when you've just got to suck it up, and for the greater good, for family life, and you just got to put up with it. And it wasn't great. The first night being able to sleep in the bed I'd not slept in 5 months was amazing. But it was horrible. Horrible.
What's selfish from my perspective is I'm walking around houses and going, "Oh, this attic conversion isn't fit for me," and you're thinking, "I can't even get up the stairs to get to the stairs to the attic conversion." Which is
apparently we've got a lovely loft up here. We've got a huge loft in here. I'm never going to see it. It's going to be apparently the kids are going to have it as their bedroom when they're a bit older, but I'm never going to be able to go up there. But yeah, so yes, but you know, even now I can't get into our one of our spare rooms because of, you know, cupboards and what have you. And it's just, yeah, I just kind of have to accept that there's bits of the house I'm not going to be able to access, and I'm fine with that because what I can access is fine. And you know, I'm quite happy with it. You know, if we really wanted me to move, I probably could, but no, I never want to do it again. And it's taken a long time. And I say, and that was the stress for me. And as you said, you know, people do obviously get stressed and anxious about, um, you know, about normal things in life. But I couldn't imagine going through that, especially going what if all the time, because I was constantly what ifing.
Yeah, I mean, for you as well, it's everyone goes into houses that they end up buying and go, but I hate that decor, so that's changing. That's an easy trip to Dunelm or IKEA. For you, it's knocking out walls, taking off doors, putting in lifts. Like it's a completely different, yeah, doer upper in a way. Like it could be a perfect house, but it's not unless it's that one that you found. And as you've said, like with the chain, everything has to. We've been lucky with this one in the fact that we've got a first-time buyer with no chain. The people that we're buying from have accepted, and they've had an offer accepted somewhere else. So, fingers crossed, it's going to be a quick process. But knowing that something could fall through at the last minute, and that fear of, oh well, what if this happens for me is huge, and I just have to go, well, if it does, then we'll figure it out as you have been through. Um, Another big one for me is as you've touched on there, it's a huge financial investment is buying a house. It's the most money you'll probably ever spend in your life until the next house. But we're in a place now where Jess owned and we're both paying the mortgage, and it's a smaller property, so the bills are affordable and the house it's ours, and we've paid a lot off the mortgage. But for me, it's we're going into a bigger financial commitment with bigger borrowing. And what if the house market crashes? What if again? What if the house market crashes, or what if I lose my job, or what if for some reason I don't have the money to pay on this bigger house? Like that, all that comes into it as well, which I'm sure a lot of people feel. And I guess what I've had to do is look around and go, if you're buying a house in today's world, that's what it is. It's the American model. It's credit. You're borrowing to be able to afford anything these days, and the situation with renting isn't much better. That people are probably going through, and that brings its own stresses, I guess, for people that are probably listening. Going, I wish I could be in a position to be affording a house. I appreciate I'm in a privileged position to be doing so, but for them, like I saw one the other day in London, 13 housemates, £700 a month each, and it's like what's that 9,100 or something a month they're taking in for. I think you put it right before, probably prison conditions would be better than some of these, and that brings its own well-being and physical safety issues with 13 people in one house in one of the most populated, well, the most populated city in our country is intense. So yeah, there's the weighing up the cost benefit analysis of, will I be stressed until I know that my neighbors aren't murderers? Maybe. Will I be stressed until I know that the first few mortgage payments go through and everything's fine? Yeah. Would I rather be living with 12 other people in London, £700 a month? No. So there's the balance, I guess, for me. So yeah.
So have you found yourself feeling this extra stress? Have you found you having to delve into your coping mechanisms a little more recently?
I think the initial, when we first discussed it, because the idea of moving and then actually saying, right, the house on the market is a different thing. It's nice to. I often go on Rightmove and look at millionaires' houses that I'm never going to afford, because it's just something that I think as a kid I used to look through the Argos catalogue. Now I'm older, I look through Rightmove, just to see what we could potentially, if we everything goes perfect in our life, what could we buy for 25 million? But yeah, I think it's that initial when you see the for sale sign going up and you're like, right. And when you get an offer on your house and you've not yet got one in place, you're like, I've got nowhere to live. Which it's not just I've built a safe space here. I don't have a space to go to make it safe. It's difficult in that way. So yeah, the overthinking can be be it in the intrusive thoughts of what if someone parks across my drive, or what if the people aren't nice, because I know everyone around here and everyone understands each other's like quirks and what they go through. And yeah, it's just that it's the unknown. And again, I'll say it in every episode that I can, certainty doesn't exist. And until I'm in that situation and deal with this, I'm not going to know. And no amount of thinking about it or checking my bank to see if in 6 months I'm not going to have enough money to pay a mortgage that I'm not yet paying is it's not fruitful. It's not going to prove anything. So yeah, I think if I was in this position buying a house 5 years ago, I'd have probably had a breakdown. Now I'm in a position where I understand triggers and how I could have been. So yeah, in a much better place. But knowing that the anxiety of buying a house is real, and anyone going through it at this point now listening is it's okay to feel scared and nervous. It's change. Any changes can be scary and different and new. So yeah, and
I guess it'd be easy for you to just stay where you are and go, I'm happy, I'm comfy, don't need to do anything. And that's probably quite a loud voice, I would say, inside you. Sort of saying, don't risk it, Danny, don't risk it, just stay put, stay put. But you know that if you want, your life to improve and, as you said, kids hopefully one day and, everything else, that you have to make changes and you have to quell that voice.
Yeah, he is, as we said, where we are now is safe, but I've lived in other places when I've not been as anxious, or I've not developed OCD to a certain extent, like I wasn't going through at that point. I've lived in other places. But yeah, it is easier to just stay, well, we'll just stay where we are forever. But that's the same as me, I think, saying, well, I'll just do compulsions forever and not go through therapy for OCD because it's scary. And I overcame that, and I've seen the benefit of having done that. I think it'll be the same with a house. We're going to have a different space and we can make it our own. And yeah, you're right. I think change can be scary, but going back to previous episodes with yourself, if you'd have sat there 6 months after being in hospital and gone, well, I'm just going to be really upset and not change anything about my life, you'd still just be sat crying with this news of I'm going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I'm never going to walk. What you did, sorry, is go and do sports. You've bought a house. You've done all these different things that it would have been easier for you to not have done. You wouldn't have had to go through this stress. You wouldn't be saying how terrible it was. But having people around me that have gone through similar things and had that stress and come out the other side, I think is enough for me to fight that voice. And I've been fighting that voice my entire life, and only recently have I been winning. So I think for me, it's about keep winning, and there'll be battles that I lose, but in the grand scheme of this war that I'm fighting, this is a battle that I know that I need to win to progress to the next stage of my life. So yeah, little analogy for you there.
That's a really good way of looking at that. It's like, I'm winning, and you know what? I'm going to reward myself for winning. This is that good things can happen because of the work I've put in and everything I've done. That I should be able to do this. I deserve to be able to do this, and it's great. That's amazing. That you can see yourself now doing that because of what you've done. And I guess it's something I touched on in a previous episode. Things happen for a reason. Maybe if you'd not had the really sort of dark days that you went and the therapies that you went through have now made you what you are and where you are now and able to do this.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. And I'm touching again on, as you say, previous episodes. I think if I'd have looked back 5 years ago, not even 10, like 5 years ago, if I'd have been in the same financial situation, the same relationship, the same eagerness to move and get a bigger house in case of families and just having a bigger space anyway. I think if you asked me 5 years ago, I was just about renting in Leeds, and that was a huge struggle for me, knowing I could give it up at any point. Now I'm putting savings and this huge investment into a space that I don't yet know until I live there if it's going to be perfect or right for us. But I feel okay with that, and I'm excited for it. And I think that excitement is the emotion that I wouldn't have felt 5 years ago. So to have that feeling, it's enough to kick me past that voice that's trying to hold me back. So yeah, I think you bang on there. So, as we've wrapped up house moves, or as it stands, I'm moving house. Tune back in future episodes for when all this falls through and Will gets his wish of me going through all this pain. We come to the mailbag, which will have to be delivered to my new address, should that all go well. But the question this week, Will, is for yourself, and it's one that I looked at and didn't know how I felt. So, to put it to you, to get your opinion on it, I thought was key, and it's great that it's come in. But there's been a petition or a movement recently to change the word or the use of the word disabled, as we do with etymology and as things go past. So to change the use of the word disabled to persons of determination. And I feel like I know where this is going to go with you, but as someone with a physical disability, would you rather be seen as someone with determination than that disability? Your thoughts, Will?
I mean, language is a very personal thing. I get that. Everyone has their own preferences. But come on. I mean, yeah, I'm disabled. It's not a derogatory term. It's the word that it is. And yeah, as you said, language evolves and things take on different meanings. But disabled the wording doesn't have to change. The meaning doesn't have to change. It's descriptive and it is what it is. I mean, I don't even like the term differently abled. That's the phrase, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, I mean, you said it in relation to something else, but you watch Usain Bolt run 100 meters. You can't run 100 meters. Are you differently abled because you can't run 100 meters in 9 seconds? Well, everybody's differently abled. Everyone's different. Everyone's got different
And
abilities.
I guarantee if Usain Bolt was going downhill, my money'd be on you anyway. So is he differently able?
There you go. Exactly. I beat him on a hill, and he could beat me going upstairs. I mean, I am as pretty left wing as they come. I mean, it's not left wing. It's just being nice to people. Just respect people. I am all about that. But changing things for the sake of change, I think it's almost like the people who are offended on someone else's behalf. It's like, you don't need to speak for me, now I am happy to be proved wrong. If there are people out there with disabilities who would much rather be called, I can't remember what the phrase was now. What was the phrase?
Persons of determination.
Thank you. Persons of determination. Then let me know why. I might be missing something. I mean, yeah, I'm determined, but so are you. So's everybody. Again, everyone's determined to do something. And and determination, I think, as well, has that sort of connotation that you're determined to get over. I'm determined to get up those steps. Well, I can be as determined as I want. I am not going up any steps. It kind of implies that there's failure if you're not able to do it.
What's the cutoff of determined? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and so what's wrong with disabled? What's wrong with saying that? As I said, it's not a dirty word. It's not a derogatory term. It's a descriptive term. Are there better words? Maybe, I don't know. But I think, yeah, being determined is an awful.
Because how does that work in practical situations? So if you say, I'm going to park in a disabled space, but I'm parked there because actually it's a person of determination space and I'm determined to get to the shop before you, try moving me because I'm a person of determination and I'm determined that you're not going to move me. At what point does language become an issue?
Yeah, that's it. As I said, it's getting offended on someone else's behalf. It's trying to help someone. It's the people who try and go out of their way to look how caring I am, look how helpful I am, which is great when the situation calls for it. But when you're doing it for the show, for the gram or whatever, then,
as we've said, it's
not
that virtue signaling. It's
the
virtue signaling. Why are you doing it? Is it to change or impact positively, or is it to just be offended? Or because offense, as you say, it's a very personal thing, as is the use of language. this links us to an NFL link, which we're big American football fans. But I don't know if you saw recently that what were the Washington Redskins, who then became the Washington football team, who are now the Washington Commanders, which for me, if you were looking at that initial name of Redskins to Commanders, it feels like it could be taken as negative in a different way from the battles that were had with those populations. But there was a petition recently, or the NFL have been threatened with being sued by a local Native American group who said the picture on the helmets when they were the Redskins was an actual person. He was a chief of a tribe. And every time they went into battle on the football field, we saw it as respecting his name and his honor and what he'd been through in his life. And it was a way to celebrate our culture, and it's not a racist thing. And it started to get me thinking and scrolling down these rabbit holes that were like, well, who were the groups that actually petitioned for that change in the first place? Because I get that you can see it says Redskin, and I'm not from a Native American community, but I can see maybe someone could be offended. But what it seems like now is that group wasn't offended. They saw it as a respectful thing from that area and that tribe and that chief. And it was another group potentially in the same boat as me, not from that racial background, not in that community, who were like, no, that's racism and I'm going to save them. And it's the same sort of thing that happens in Hollywood movies. There is the white savior. So there'll be a character that's of a different minority background, and the white person, male or female, will come in and save that community because it's that job to save. And it's like, it feels like that's what's happened there in the NFL as well. And again, not coming from that community, I can't speak to it, but seeing that they're saying it as a sign of respect, whereas someone not in that community thinks it's racist and it's wrong. Is that the same thing that's happened with the persons of determination? Is it, we should change that because I think that could be negative, when actually you're in that community going, it's not at all what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think I said, I'm one person, one voice in this. I appreciate my view is that I don't think it should change, but I'm happy to be corrected. I'm happy to have people in the community say, no, this is a better wording because of, and explain it to me. I mean, in terms of the NFL thing, yeah, it's tough. I think they were right to change it. My reading of it was that there were a lot more groups. There were still groups in that community who didn't like the term, and that's why it was changed. But yeah, you're always going to get people who are offended on others' behalf, and you just have to. I think you just have to debate with them. You just have to talk with them. You have to see what their reason is.
As you say, like, people within the same community, some might have been offended, some weren't, and it's a discussion that will be ongoing in their community itself, not even taking into account other opinions or the owners, or as you say.
But I look, I would rather have an abundance of caution in the sense that if there are groups that are offended, okay, fine, let's change it. What really is the harm, in changing it? If these people are going to be happier, because of this name, of disabled people are going to be happier, and they much prefer to have this, person of determination language used instead, then okay, really, I mean, it's not going to affect me. Yeah, I've got an opinion on it, but it doesn't affect me, But if genuinely someone is like, I feel much better, I'm happy as a person or whatever because of this, then okay, I'm happy to have them. Then there's I think you can have that debate. Look, as I said, everyone's quite personal about their language. I don't like the term wheelchair bound. That's my little bugbear word. I'm not bound to my chair. I can transfer out of it whenever I want. But if someone says it to me, doesn't get my heckles up. I don't start getting offended. I don't feel I have to correct that person. That's just the language that they're using. It's not it's not a derogatory term for me. I don't see it as a derogatory term. It's just a personal wording that I don't like very much. But I'm not going to get bent out of shape if people do use it.
I think it's similar with me. Like in the last mailbag question that I was asked, I said, like, when people say obsessive Christmas disorder or whatever, can get to me because of a lack of understanding of people that have actual obsessive compulsive disorder, which is a terrible disorder to have. And I think it's the at last count, I don't know how often they count these things because it's quite morbid, but the most people that take their own life because of a mental health condition, it's OCD because it's so awful. So to like trivialize it and make people use it in a way that's just like, yeah, but it's not real, is it? That gets to me. But when we were doing planning, I wrote down a thing and I was like, oh, we can't call this a brainstorm anymore. People have to call it a mind map because it can be. And I'll say things like, oh yeah, I saw that at the weekend. That was mental, knowing that I've got a mental illness. But I don't see that as being as negative as other words. But again, it's a
Context.
personal thing, isn't it?
Context is important about it. If you're using a term to somebody in a clearly derogatory way, in a way of shaming them, then yeah, there's an issue with that word, regardless of what you as using it think. There is an issue because that you've upset that person. Why are you doing that? The only reason you'd be doing that is because you're being a dick, by using that word. So use a different word. That's the great thing about language. There's 100 different words for things. Use something else that doesn't make people upset with you. And if you don't want to do it because, oh, that's my word, I like using that word, then you're a dick. Plain and simple. There's no other reason that you just like causing people distress. And why?
We chatted about it. I can't remember. I'll try and tag him into any post about this, but there was a comedian, Australian comedian, who had said about being offended. And he was like, I just don't get people that get offended. And obviously it's a comedian, so it takes it to the extreme, but he's saying like, you choose to be offended. And he's like, yeah, but he said this. And he's like, yeah, but he's a dick. So just move on. And it's like, yeah, I think there's a lot. And it's being willing to change. If I say something like, if I said to you, oh, you're chair-bound, and you were like, I'd prefer you didn't use that. All right, that was a mistake, and I'm willing to change because it makes you feel more comfortable. If I continue to use that knowing that you don't like it, that's when it's an issue for me. That's when you start to border onto being a dick territory. And I think the world would be a much better place if the slogan of every party that campaigned was, just don't be a dick.
That's it. That's it. That's the perfect thing that everyone should just remember. Don't be a dick. Be nice.
Everyone can be determined as a caveat.
Be determined. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, I think that is a good place to end episode 4. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully episode 5 will be along shortly. But as we just said, don't be a dick to each other. Just be nice.
Keep talking and don't be a dick.
Bye.